and to feel the stillness and the quietness of the mind. As you extend the exhalation, you will begin to feel the very gentle sensation in your throat, just at the base of the throat. And try to feel the sensation and smoothen it. Keep it very subtle. You feel it between the dip in the throat and the sternum, just that space. Keep your focus there as you continue to extend the breath. And you may also feel it during the inhalation, the Ujjayi. The bhavana of exhalation is to completely empty the system, empty the mind of all the thoughts, preoccupations. Clearing the mind and preparing the mind. And now we will proceed to extending the inhalation. So I'd like you to just pay a little attention to how we can improve the inhalation. Because usually when we are giving so much importance to the exhalation, all these weeks we've been talking about exhalation and how to improve, how to work with, and why we need to exhale, etc. And because of this emphasis on exhalation, it's possible that we're not paying enough attention to our inhalation. Okay, so the technique is very important. If we are habituated to inhaling using the shoulder, neck muscles, kind of upper chest breathing, it's not a very good practice because it actually can trigger anxiety, can make you feel very agitated quickly. That's usually how we breathe when we are very stressed out. Because what happens when we are stressed out is the diaphragm area becomes very tight. We may be either holding the breath a lot or we may be just ventilating using the neck shoulder muscles. So when we want to deepen our inhalation, first thing to remember is don't use these muscles to breathe. So we are relearning to breathe in a different way. We're still using the chest to the upper abdomen, but not the upper chest, shoulder, neck breathing. Okay, that's the first thing to remember. Second thing to remember is we want to actively use the upper spine to work on improving the opening of the ribs. And the spine is also connected to the diaphragm. So, actively using the spine is very important during the inhalation. And the direct, immediate benefit of that is your posture improves immediately. So, if you're using chest to abdomen breathing, moving downwards like blowing into a balloon and filling the air in all directions, the spine will automatically straighten. So, the upper back, which is like this, there is a natural kyphotic curvature of the upper back. There is a straightening of the upper back. So the vertebra in the upper back actually get lengthened. You're able to bring more circulation to the intervertebral disc in your upper back. It's like a traction effect to the upper spine. And this is very, very important, particularly if we have like a computer job and we're hunching over, then this is the posture. So we need to open up and actively work on lengthening the spine. Second point. The third point is this movement has to proceed from the clavicle. So you can actually feel the movement of the breath expanding from here, but you will initiate this a little later. The first part of the inhalation, ideally, you keep your hand, the upper abdomen, just above the navel, okay, and let that expand naturally because your diaphragm begins to move right at the beginning of your inhalation. Inhalation, even natural inhalation is very active. And the first part of the inhalation is by the movement of the diaphragm. So let that happen naturally without much intervention, like active intervention from us. Okay. So maybe 2 or 3 or 4 seconds, allow that inhalation to happen very, very naturally and freely. Then once it starts to happen, start deepening it. Start deepening it from the upper chest, straightening the spine downwards. And very, very, very smoothly. So you'll feel the diaphragm descending, contracting and descending. You'll feel from the chest, expansion. Also the sides, you have to feel the expansion also, the sides, your intercostal muscles also have to contract to lift the rib cage up, and then you feel the expansion in the upper abdomen. Allow that to happen very freely. Don't keep the upper abdomen contracted or tightened. And if possible, try not to push the lower abdomen out. That's what I was mentioning before. But if it is coming out initially, it really doesn't matter. We can later correct that. So that will mean that we are not arching the lower back. Like sometimes when we are sitting to breathe, people tend to do this. Like you tend to arch the lower back and push the body forward, like actually bringing the weight to the front of the thighs, which is not a good idea. You can also grow very numb in your legs if you're putting too much weight in the front. So sitting back is important, not actively moving the spine, like moving the body back forward and backward is important, not actively doing that. Very subtle lengthening of the spine and expansion of the chest, straightening of the upper back, free movement of the diaphragm. Yeah, these are the 4 things that we need to remember. And throughout the inhalation, make sure you're not tensing any of these muscles, particularly the throat, the shoulder, uh, the jaws, etc. And this is also important to keep them relaxed even through the exhalation. Now we will begin to extend the inhalation. Okay, so you have arrived at your maximum exhalation. You can mentally make a note of it. We'll begin with 3 or 4 seconds inhalation and try to proceed to maybe 6 to 8 seconds if possible. Remembering the first part of your inhalation is very relaxed, natural. Then pick it up and slowly expand and go to the maximum where you're not tensing up the body, where your exhalation can be regulated like how you were regulating now. Okay? And keep the exhalation long and smooth. You don't have to count your exhalation, just build your inhalation to 6 or 8 seconds and free exhalation. Okay, the next few minutes, just do that with Ujjayi. Remember to pause after inhalation for 2 seconds and after exhalation for 2 seconds. Keep your exhalation long and deep without having to count the exhalation. Just exhale as long as possible. Let it taper off, let it end by itself. And as the inhalation lengthens, you may be able to feel the Ujjayi in your throat. You can continue to focus on that as you lengthen step by step. Maintain your maximum inhalation for a couple of more breaths. Okay, now come back to your natural breath. The inhalation is the energizing, activating part of the breath. If you if you were testing your pulse as you inhale and exhale, you will feel that your pulse rate increases during the inhalation and reduces during the exhalation. You're able to see that very distinct difference means that your pulse is very good. You're able to feel that difference. Inhalation activates your sympathetic nervous system. That's why if you inhale or hold your breath for too long, it can actually sometimes agitate the system. It can definitely increase the blood pressure, your pulse rate, etc. It can also increase anxiety sometimes. So, if we are able to train our system so that we can breathe longer and hold our breath longer and maintain the balance of the sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system, then we are actually building our strength, our inner resilience. Okay, so the idea is we really build our capacity for breathing and all components of the breath. During inhalation, what is actually happening is we are creating negative pressure, yeah, in the chest, in the thorax, so that the breath can flow in. It also helps with the circulation of the blood from the extremities back into the heart to be pumped to the lungs for purification. So this venous return is facilitated by good inhalation. So that's why we need to learn to inhale well so we have good circulation, including the lymphatic circulation can be facilitated by good long inhalation and of course exhalation. If somebody is feeling very tired, low energy, people have sometimes if you have your low hemoglobin levels, your energy level is very, very low. People can get tired very easily. Hold after inhalation, what we call a Brahmana practice, is very good. You will instantly see after like even a 12, 24 breaths of hold after inhalation, your energy level improves. And for the same reason, if you are in India, it is late evening, and you're going to do some hold after inhalation, it can sometimes affect sleep if you already have a difficulty sleeping. So what I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to try this technique, but don't try to hold after inhalation for too long. Those of you who are outside India have more time for bedtime, then you can explore a little more. Okay. Um, but in the morning, this is a very good practice. I have found that it is not all the time that if you're going to do a hold after inhalation, you can't sleep. But it also depends upon our state of mind. If the mind is already very busy and active, this can make the mind more active, can make the whole system so alert and energized. You'll feel so energized that you want to be doing a lot of other things. So be a little careful about how this technique can impact your physiology and therefore also your state of mind. So what we will do now is we will try and hold a long exhalation so it balances off the hold after inhalation. Okay. The hold after inhalation is given a lot of importance in classical pranayama. I'm sure many of you would have heard of this classical ratio, like even in Hatha Yoga Pradipika, and many of the texts talks about holding after inhalation 4 times the length of your inhalation and exhaling double the length of your inhalation. Yeah, it's 1-4-2. Krishnamacharya added a hold after exhalation as well, and he said it's 1-4-2-1. Okay, so uh, there are reasons why the hold after inhalation is built like 4 times the length of inhalation. In the classical technique, uh, pranayama is a preparation for meditation. And the hold after inhalation is a time to meditate. It's a time to bring the bhavana and to chant the mantra that you are connected to for your meditation during the hold after inhalation. So when you use mantra in pranayama, what we call samantraka pranayama, it is usually introduced after inhalation first. You learn to do it after inhalation, and then you may be able to bring it into other components of the breath. Because it is easier for you to chant the mantra when you're not moving the breath. That's when the mind can be completely focused. So you can pay attention to every word, every syllable, every notation in the mantra. You're chanting mentally, you're not chanting aloud. Yeah, you have to chant mentally. So keeping the rhythm of the breath during hold after inhalation, mantra can be chanted. So next week, the last week, we will look at bringing mantra into pranayama. In the yogic tradition, pranayama is used as tapas as a purificatory process as well, apart from preparing for meditation. Yeah, if you want to apply it in yoga therapy. So we give more importance to hold after exhalation. And wherever necessary, we will bring hold after inhalation. Even then, hold after exhalation is never as much as you can't really hold after exhalation for too long. So what we do is we have the measure of the hold after exhalation to determine your hold after inhalation. Just a simple mathematics. So don't worry if you can't get around it, because I also can't most of the time. Suppose I can hold after exhale for say 10 seconds. The maximum I should hold after inhalation is 40 seconds into 4. Okay? So that is the classical ratio. 10 seconds inhale, 40 seconds hold, 20 seconds exhale, 10 seconds hold. So if I can hold after exhale for 5 seconds only, then I should aim to hold after inhale only for 20 seconds. Even if I can do 35, 40, I should first build my hold after exhalation before I build my hold after inhalation. Like I said, that's safer to do. Okay. Now, we don't have to go to very high ratios today. What we will try and do is we will have a long inhalation. So, whatever you're able to do, 6 or 8 seconds. If you can maintain a hold after inhalation equal to or slightly lesser than that. Okay. And exhale, keep it long and free, as long as possible. And what we will do is we'll do Viloma Ujjayi. We'll inhale through alternate nostril if your nostrils are not blocked. Otherwise, you can do Anuloma Ujjayi. You inhale through alternate nostril with Mrigi Mudra. So one is fully closed, the other partially closed, same technique. Bring the hand down, hold your breath equal to the length of inhalation or slightly lesser. Okay. And then bring your focus to the throat and exhale as long as possible. Complete your exhalation, let it taper off and pause briefly. Okay. Then come back to the nostrils for the other nostril, inhalation, hold, exhale. Okay, Viloma Ujjayi. Let's start. If your nostrils are blocked, go back to Anuloma Ujjayi or just plain Ujjayi. Doesn't matter. We are not looking at the technique today. We are looking at the ratio of hold after inhalation. And the bhavana is very important. Like I said, exhalation is emptying, clearing, detoxifying, emptying oneself of even oneself. Inhalation is allowing something higher to fill in. So the idea of inhalation is receiving the energy from the higher force. And when you hold after inhalation, you're holding this energy and you're filling yourself with it, filling every pore, every cell of your body with this powerful energy. Okay, this connection to something higher than what the mind can conceive. And then when you exhale, you offer back, and you hold after exhale briefly to surrender. So the bhavana is what we infuse the mind with. The bhavana makes pranayama so powerful, so powerful. It's not anymore a technique. It's not anymore numbers or counting. It's just being one with something higher, which is yoga. The union between the self and the higher self. If we don't believe in God, we can believe in the power of nature, the power of a higher intelligence that operates through everything in nature. So connect with that, connect with the whole world. And whatever we have been able to receive through this period, filling ourselves with gratitude. And then when we exhale, offering it back to the world, let it reach all living beings on this planet. Completely let it go out of yourself, empty yourself and surrender. So sit with your back erect. Just take 1 minute to stabilize your posture. If you need to sip a little water, you can do that now. Very little water just to wet your throat. Take a few normal breaths. Set the intention for the practice today that as we inhale, we receive, and we also connect with gratitude to everything that we have been receiving through this period. As we hold the breath, we fill ourselves with this energy of gratitude, of love, the power of the higher force. And as you exhale, reach out and empty yourself, taking this energy to the whole world. So this will be the intention for our practice. And once we complete the exhalation, just pause for a few seconds in complete surrender, that we become one with the whole world, that we are not separate from the world. Once you have firmly rooted this intention in your mind, in your whole being, start your practice. Viloma Ujjayi. Exhale completely now. Bring your hand to the Mrigi Mudra. Close your right nostril completely. Left is partially open and inhale through that. Complete your inhalation. Bring your hand down and hold your breath. Bring the focus to the throat. Start your exhalation. Pause after exhalation in complete surrender. Bring the hand back to the nostrils. Inhale through the right. Bring the hand down. Hold your breath. Focus back to the throat. Exhale completely. Pause after exhale in surrender and the feeling of oneness. Continue at your own rhythm with the bhavana with every breath. As you hold after inhalation, keep your focus on the heart, keeping the heart open to acknowledge everything that we have received and we continue to receive, and then offer completely as you exhale. Make sure you're not tensing your shoulder, neck, throat muscles. beginning of your inhalation, even though you are regulating at the nostril, keep it very relaxed and natural and slowly deepen it. Very slowly deepen it. Just hold to the extent you are comfortable, not too long. And try to keep the exhalation as long as possible. So make sure the elbow is at an angle. It is not in front of your nose. Okay. So if you keep it like this, it can constrict your neck. So keep it at an angle. Yeah. When you hold after inhalation, it's absolutely important to keep your body relaxed, not tightening up any part of the body, not tensing, not forcing. Observe if you're feeling the straightening and the lengthening of your upper spine, space between the shoulder blades. And you're not lifting your shoulders. Complete with this round. And let's do some Shitali or Sitkari with Bhramri, with the humming, so that we can keep the exhalation longer and counter if there is any kind of activation happening with the hold after inhalation, we'll counter it with a longer exhalation. So Shitali or Shitkari with Bhramri. Okay? In this time, you can hold after exhalation, after you've completely emptied yourself. Just suspend your breath for a little while. Continue to maintain the bhavana of completely offering to the world and surrendering. Complete with this breath and then come back to your natural rhythm. Relax yourself. Now, I would like to look at some of the questions that were asked. We'll see how far we can go today. Go up to 7:45. The rest of the questions we can look at next week. Shakuntala, can you share the screen? Okay, so what I have done is I have picked up a few questions and a few sharings that we could probably discuss. You said the breath is a purifier that helps us see who we are. How does that happen? Um, Yoga Sutra talks about uh, correct understanding, pramana. Okay, and there are three means for pramana. One is what the text is saying. So if Bhagavad Gita or Yoga Sutra is so much focusing on the breath, saying the breath is a purifier. Even Lord Krishna and Bhagavad Gita says um, out of all the purifiers, I am the wind. So he's referring to the wind as a purifier. Okay. Now, how does it happen? One is the agama, that there is a textual reference for it. And we also know physiologically how the breath is a very important um, process for removing your metabolic waste. Almost 70 to 80% of the metabolic waste are removed through the breath. The second thing is the anumana. So when you're doing your pranayama, you will begin to see that you're able to digest better, your bowel movements improve, you're able to get rid of negative thoughts very easily, the strong negative memories become weaker with good pranayama. So that's the way you understand the purification, anumana. And slowly, this whole experience of the power of the breath becomes pratyaksha, our own direct experience. So, how does that happen? Try it and see how it happens. That's what I would say. Because yoga is an anushasana shastra. It means I have to experience it myself to know. Uh, the second thing is Brahmari with Shanmukhi. So I think somebody had mentioned that you were a bit confused about Brahmari being done with the hand gestures. So uh, palming the eyes or closing, if you're able to pin my video, I'll show you. So closing the um, Shakuntala, you may also have to do that. Closing the ears with the thumb and placing the index finger on the um, eyelids or just above the eyelids. Place the middle finger at the nostrils, the ring finger and the little finger above and below the mouth. So this is Shanmukhi Mudra. So we do Shanmukhi Mudra with Brahmari. But these two are two different techniques that we usually combine. So Brahmari itself is not Shanmukhi Mudra. Okay? So when you combine these two techniques, and it works very well. It calms your whole system. It is like a pratyahara practice. It helps you to direct your senses inward, focusing on the sound that you're producing with prana. So there is no confusion about it. Explanation for Ujjayi, I would say keep your focus on your throat and keep working on extending your breath. Ujjayi will naturally happen. If it's still difficult, then find a way to work with a teacher who can help you to establish the practice. Yeah, so this, if there is a particular technique that disturbs us, I've heard students say that every time I do Shitali, I feel like crying, or Nadishodhana can make us angry. We also sometimes have to look at how we could establish a certain cause effect relationship to certain techniques. Like if you are very uncomfortable with, say, Pratiloma Ujjayi, you had a class and you were asked to do that for 40 breaths and you're feeling very uncomfortable and agitated. That stays as a memory in the mind. And every time you need to go back to the technique, that memory will tell you, now that's not a good technique for you. You're going to be uncomfortable with it, or it's going to agitate you. That the memory actually comes in the way of also us experiencing something afresh. So if we do have that kind of experience, try to investigate more. Is it really the technique, or is it many other factors that could be involved in it? Okay. Okay, let me just read through this. I have studied with Sri Ramaswamy sir. He taught us an overall krama for practice with various vinyasas. First, Paschimottanasana with Pratikriya, two principal inversions as Viparita Karni Mudra and Pratikriya, Mahamudra Pratikriya, Baddha Konasana, Kapalabhati Kriya, followed by Pranayama before Shanmukhi Mudra and sit for meditation. Desika Acharya's religiousness in yoga, he places inversions in the middle of the practice. Towards the end, as Ramaswamy, than towards the end. Though it also seems while Ramaswamy encourages variation in the first vinyasa portion of practice, says the four asanas and mudra listed above, if one can practice them daily as mainstay, while Desikacharya seems to be less fixed on such asanas and procedures. So this is your observation. See, I think there's a difference in the approach of the two teachers. While Desikachar, with whom I studied, I know more how he teaches and why he teaches this way. He taught this way. He primarily taught a lot of therapy and trained a lot of us to work with people who came with health issues. So practices were individualized, highly specialized, individualized practices. And most people, because they came with health issues, there were a lot of postures they could already not do. And so one had to begin with where they are and then build up the practice. So much of his approach is therapeutic and individualized. Whereas Shivatsa Ramaswamy sir's, his approach is more for the Rakshana Krama, the Shakti Karma practice. Yeah, people to build your strength, to build your resilience and preventive care. So the approach of these two teachers is quite different, though the principles that they follow are pretty much the same. If you looked at some of the other students of Krishnamacharya, they would also teach very differently. So each student received the teachings in a particular way and they carried it forward in a particular way. And because I studied with Desikachar, I teach more the Vinyasa Krama with the inversion in the middle of the practice, because that's the um, in a sequence, that's the most difficult part of the sequence. So we prepare adequately for that. And then we come down, taper off, and then prepare for pranayama. But for a healthy person in Rakshana Krama, I think you should be able to do any kind of practice, any order, you should be able to do it comfortably with some focus on the Pratikriyasana and adequate preparation. Yeah. Hatha Yoga Pratipika, Swatmarama describes asana followed by pranayama, then mudras, followed by meditation. Yeah, so here mudras refer to bandhas. So you need to do pranayama to be able to do the bandhas, which are the more difficult, intensive locks that you create in your system. So then it is a progression from preparation from pranayama to get to the bandhas. And then we move on to the meditation. Um, Hathayo Pradipika, I think, is a brilliant text, but it's not something that we follow so much to the letter in this tradition. We use Krishnamacharya's texts like Yoga Makaranda and Yoga Rahasya, etc. Also. What technique should I use if I can practice pranayama lying down? Can you do it lying down? You can do it lying down if you're not able to sit up. So I would ask, when you need to lie down, you have to find out why you need to lie down. We do use lying pranayama for therapy when somebody cannot sit or should not be sitting for too long, but still we want to work on deepening the breath or calming the person down, reducing pain, etc. So we would apply pranayama in lying position. So you don't do neck movement in lying position, you don't do Kapalabhati um, and those kind of fast breathing techniques in lying position. The other techniques, even nostril control breathing, we don't do it so much in lying position. Sometimes we may use it as a bhavana, visualizing. Somebody is recovering from a stroke, they can't really use their hands to do the nostril control breathing. We may ask them to visualize inhaling through one nostril, exhaling through the other nostril. When we are pressed for time, what technique can we use? You can use any technique. Okay, you need the same amount of time for Ujjayi or Nadi Shodhana or any other technique. So if you're pressed for time, you make sure your exhalation is longer, because already you're pressed for time, which means you're feeling very constricted. So keep your exhalation longer and use any technique that will help you to have a comfortable exhalation. And keep your inhalation relaxed. So it's not so much about the volume of air you're breathing in and out. It is how relaxed your breathing is, how smooth and rhythmic your breathing is. That's more important. This is a very important observation that my state of mind changes only if I do more than 28 to 30 breaths. The mind feels more in control throughout the day. So that is your Sankhya. That is your minimum length of Sankhya. It is beyond that you really get the effect of pranayama. So this is very, very important to note. That after a particular breath, your mind suddenly quietens down and becomes more focused. If you are able to identify that point, that threshold, you should at least do that amount of, that length of, or that number of breaths or breath cycles for you to really experience the benefit of pranayama. But I would say that can be the minimum, and then you build from there. And over a period of time, this will change. That's very beautiful, because suppose you take 28, 30 breaths for the mind to stabilize. After regular practice, after some time, you'll say that the 15th breath, your mind will quieten down. And then you know you're progressing. Yeah. But it's a very good observation. Okay, so these things, like if you feel you have forgotten, use the same side twice, don't worry. The system is so intelligent, it will make all the adjustments it needs. Your body and your breath, your prana is very, very intelligent. You don't have to worry about these small, minor mistakes. But you're aware of that, that you did twice on one side, which is great. How does one teach a student to completely exhale? Um, One is to work with yourself. If you understand whether you have completely exhaled and you understand how that is happening, then you will be able to observe and instruct the person correctly. So we have to work with ourselves. Can one observe the body or be an observer by doing techniques like Ujjayi or Nadishodhana? I believe that if I do free breathing, I'm able to observe better. It is true. It is true, because when you are regulating, when you are controlling at some level, when you are counting, the doer is very active. The asmita that is saying, oh, I am doing this, am I doing it correctly? So we are still very focused on doing something. The observer location is not very strong at that point. So what I would suggest is, when you're doing pranayama, uh, just pay attention to keeping the techniques and focusing on all this and making sure your body is relaxed. Lengthen the breath and be with the practice. When you get to the observer location, you've gone beyond pranayama. You're going into the dhyana, the dharana aspect. So then your focus is your breath. Just stay with free breathing and strengthen the observer location. If you're able to do both, wonderful. But it is important that you understand why I am not able to be in the observer location. It's because the doer has become very strong, very active. So bhavana, we already did some bhavana today in our practice. I think this is the most important essence of pranayama practice. Even in asana, bhavana is very, very important. So you bring a certain quality to your practice, a certain energy to your practice. So it could be anything. Your bhavana could be that I want to fill myself with gratitude, or I want to really feel a lot of love for the world, or um, I want to experience the fullness of my prana in my body. I want to be able to take my prana, push the prana into every part of my body. So anything could be the bhavana. And exhalation also, it could be offering, releasing, emptying, detoxifying, surrendering. Bring that, whatever comes to you very naturally, what you're very deeply connected to, that could be the bhavana. And stay with something for a length of time. So you can make that more and more subtle. There is no need for even thought there. It could simply be a feeling, a very subtle feeling. We will work with bhavana again next week. Okay? I do have holding the lower abdomen and keeping it there without eventually tensing further into the abdomen. Find it a practice to keep the belly relaxed for the inhalation without letting go of the lower abdomen. Um, so, what I would suggest in asana, particularly with lying postures, trying to work with this more than in seated position or standing. Because in lying position, because you are moving the abdomen towards gravity, it's much easier to maintain that relaxed feeling even when you have drawn the abdomen in. And try to stay with that more and more, like in postures like Apanasana, Vipadapitham, whatever the posture might be, Jethara Parivritti. So you experience that relaxation in the abdomen. And then one more way of working with it is if you sit against the wall and use the support of the wall for your lower abdomen and hold the lower abdomen in. So your entire hip area and your lower abdomen can relax a lot, and you're holding the wall as a support. So these two techniques, if you can try, see how it works. Does pranayama open up a lot of layers and how to deal with it? You know, yoga is such a compassionate practice. If we do the practice correctly, Vini yoga, that is uh, according to that individual and our capacity, then we only can see what we are ready to see, and we will learn how to deal with it. It's a very beautiful passage in the Vyasa's commentary to the third chapter of Yoga Sutra. He says, Yogena yogo jnatavyo yogo yogat pravartate. It simply means that yoga will teach you where you need to go, and what you need to do, yoga will tell you. It's a very rough translation. It simply means that at any step, you will know what to do. Your inner intelligence will tell you, because you have developed enough clarity and strength to see something opening up. Then your practice will take care of that. But of course, it needs the guidance of a teacher. Yeah, somebody who can work with you if there's something coming up that you need guidance with. But I would say trust your breath, trust your practice. How do you maintain or sustain the length of inhalation and exhalation throughout? Sometimes the ratio varies. Is that normal? In a good pranayama practice, it is good to determine uh, the ratio, the number, and the technique right at the beginning. Once you determine those boundaries, try to stay with them. Sometimes you might have decided on a ratio which is too much for you. And after a point, you will realize that it is causing some agitation. You can step it down. Or you might reach a ratio, you might decide on a ratio which is too easy, and you might just fall asleep, or your mind will start wavering because it's too easy for you. Then you can step it up. But usually, determining the ratio at the beginning, the technique at the beginning, the number of breath cycles at the beginning is important. But at least I'm going to do it for 20 minutes. Have that measure, so that you are not aborting your practice in the middle if you get bored or distracted. Okay, that's the discipline that we create in pranayama. How does pranayama affect physiologically? There is a lot of study being done on the biochemical, physiological effects of breathing. I haven't really done much uh, work on looking at some of these studies, but I think it will be interesting to look at them. For example, the importance of long exhalation, hold after exhalation, um, long hold after exhalation. We talk about intermittent hypoxia that you create in the system that will improve your oxygen uptake. It will improve the RBC production, production of the erythropoietin in the bone marrow, etc. Some of these studies have been done. So it depends a lot on the critical value of the carbon dioxide in your blood. And we can actually change some of this with techniques like Kapalabhati, hold after exhale, etc. And that actually helps to improve the capacity of your system. They even find it useful in conditions that are degenerative in nature. So it can delay the degeneration or the progression of even neurological conditions. So maybe you can look up, there are plenty of studies, look up and share if you find something interesting. I would like to be able to discern better what progress is and how I can measure it. I would look at progress uh, as what is happening to the mind, because yoga is all about the mind. And if every practice in yoga, particularly pranayama, is taking us towards chittavritti nirodha, then the only measure of progress is my state of mind. Is, that I can experience better taming of my rajasic quality, the reduction in my tamasic quality, the heaviness in my system, and better clarity and quietness. So the quietness of the mind, the clarity that I can have, the ability to focus better, and many other uh, qualities of sattva, even the quality of generosity, the quality of tolerance. All these are what I would look at progress. Okay? Because I tell you, I mean, we could have an extraordinary capacity to inhale, exhale, hold everything. But if the yama niyamas, I'm not able to see my progress with that, then I have to question my practice. Yeah, I could be a great practitioner, but am I living yoga? That's more important, particularly in my interaction with the world. In the practice of Shitali, when we fold the tongue to the top of the roof of the mouth, that is the jihva bandha, after inhalation, does it remain there during the length of exhalation and then release, or release before exhalation? If you keep the tongue folded, you will see that you're more attentive. So I think it helps to keep the tongue folded through the exhalation. It's hard for me to keep the inhalation and exhalation equal. Oh, sorry, time check. Can we come back to these questions later? Yeah. So Shakuntala, please remember where we stopped. And if there are more questions, please bring them on. You can email to Yoga Vahini. And thank you. Thank you. I'll finish with a prayer.
Saras, we have 4 minutes.
For 8.
Yeah, for 8.
No, I wanted to finish at 7:45, not 8. We started at 6:45. No?
Yeah.
Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you. Enjoy the day, enjoy the evening.
Thank you, Saras.
Thank you.